Hey, welcome back to the Board Game Closet. My name's Jimmy.
I'm Tim.
I'm Rod.
And today we're going to be taking a look at Alien Frontiers. This is put out by Game Salute, plays up to 4 people, and plays in roughly 90 minutes. In Alien Frontiers, you are going to be colonizing a planet. So this is an area control game with victory points, and there's lots of ways to victory. So let's take a look and see what you get in the box. Okay, so this is what you get in Alien Frontiers. So you get a lot of components, and Rod, do you want to tell us about what you think about the components and what you get?
Awesome. I mean, literally, look at the artwork. The artwork's fantastic.
I love it too.
I mean, the artwork's reminds me of late 60s, 70s, and
Highland Asimov kind of look to it.
there you are, perfect.
I know I am.
You get all the neat little components. It almost looks like Doctor Who's thing. Anyway, you get the little the biospheres and stuff. I mean, everything on there is just well done. The art, like between the artwork, the card stock.
They kind of look like the Bobble thing from Sorry.
They really do.
Sorry.
Okay, and so all in all, the quality. I mean, like you can't say anything wrong with it. Nice thick board. We're good to go. Lots of dice. We're good.
Lots of dice, yeah.
I do think the artwork helps keep you in that world. It does a really good job of it.
Yeah, totally. So in Alien Frontiers, this is a dice rolling game where you're going to be rolling dice and then finding places on the board to put them. So at the beginning of your turn, based off of the number of dice that you have, they actually consider these to be rockets. And so you're able to fly around this planet and use the resources or the infrastructure of the planet to be able to do certain things. There's actually a flip side to this board that has rocket dice, which is something Game Salute, I think, did a Kickstarter on and is in production of right now. So you could use rockets, maybe add to that theme a little bit more. But in essence, your dice are just rolling. You roll the dice, and then you look for places on the board to put them. And so I'm not going to go through each and every one of these locations, but each one of these locations handles the dice differently. So in the solar converter, where you're trying to get fuel, or in the lunar mine, where you're trying to get or it's just you're just placing out single dice, and based off of the number that's on the dice is how many of those things that you can get. But there's other places on the board, like over here in the shipyard, where you have to have 2 dice of the same kind, or in the colony constructor, where you have to have 3 of the same kind. And so each one of these places do it. There's another one where it's in sequence, or this one you have to have dice over a certain number, things like that. So each one of these places requires your dice to be a certain way or a certain number. So you roll your dice, look for where you can put it on the board, make the best use of your dice in order to try to score victory points. And so you're able to, the main goal is to try to get these colonies onto the planet. When you get the colonies onto the planet, it then becomes an area control game. So you're trying to control certain areas. You get victory points based off of that. So if you have the most people in an area, then you control that area, you get a victory point. Or the other benefit to controlling an area is whoever has the most in an area gets a benefit. So all of these places where you're able to land, if you control this area, then you might get an advantage. So it might not cost you as much to do something, might be easier for you to do something, so on and so forth. They also include alien tech cards that basically let you break the rules. So there's tech cards in here that might say you can flip your die over, or you can add one or subtract one, or you can move a die from one location to another, things like that. So that's all you're doing. You're trying to land your planes to build colonies, score victory points, and at the end of the game, whoever wins. And I think the end game is created when all of these have been placed by one person, I believe, or so many have been placed by one person. That signals the end of the game, and then victory points determine the winner. So what do you think about the rules of the game? Do you think it was complicated, hard to learn?
The rules were nice, and because they did the cool thing where they set up like the whole game for you. At first, they explain the components. They have nice pictures where they show you what each one of the components is. And then they set up the game for you. And that's always nice, because a lot of times when you first come into a new game, you don't know how the board's supposed to look, you know, what all these spaces are. Then it tells you all of the different variants of how many different players and stuff it goes. And then it talks about each one of the spots on the board, because these are really the important parts of the game. Because it's really a dice game, and like you said about putting the combos down on the table. So then it goes to that, and then on the end at the back, it's got the handy reference guides, which every game should have that has any type of icons on the board.
Right.
But then after you're done, reading it and getting it set up and learning how to do one playthrough, I think one turn is all it's going to take, and at that point you will be just reading off the board because the board has all these references on it for each one of the things, and the cards tell you exactly what you need for everything. So once you get the idea of what every component is and then what the actual icons mean, you probably won't look at the reference sheet again.
Right, yeah, because once you learn the location, then it's just easy. So at first it can be intimidating because you're like, there's all these things I could do, and what's my way to victory? But once you learn what each of those places do, you're set, and then you just start to play, and that's where the fun comes in. So.
And the dice really do limit what you can do each turn, so it's not like there's a bunch of options every turn.
Right.
So that's really nice too.
And there's a way for you to add ships to your hand, so you can. I think you start with 3, but you're able to go up to 6, and then there's even another way to go to 7. So you could be rolling 7 dice at one time, and then what you can do on the board is just opened wide, and you can do all kinds of stuff. So that's kind of neat.
Yeah.
I think that this game could probably be put on any cover. We could do this in a fantasy, or we could do this in other type of worlds and things, but I think that this particular one, the reason I'm saying this, keeps you in tune with what you're doing.
Right. Yeah.
You still feel like the whole time you're playing, it doesn't feel like you're just doing a dice game.
Right. Yeah.
Somehow it still keeps you going. The cards are keeping you referenced correctly. Like we've played other games before, and that would be Waterdeep would be the one that always comes up. That it seems like everything pulls you way out of that world instead of pulling you into the world. And this one here, I just think, just with the artwork and how it's set up, it keeps pulling you into the world.
Yeah, there's another game that's similar to this called Kingsburg, which is really, it's one of my favorite games too, but it's the same kind of deal. You're rolling dice and then placing them on the board. But I even think that this pulls you into the theme way more than Kingsburg does, because this, I feel like I just added another ship. I feel like I went and got ore. I feel like I'm trading that into, I don't know why, but this one for some reason just totally pulls me into that world so much better than that one does.
It's key too on games like this to keep a theme, because it could be just a really basic game of just rolling dice and play Yahtzee or something, but instead, they make it to where you have to have a solar converter or whatever.
Right, yeah.
And they have even the 3D pieces here that you can put down.
And block, it takes away abilities off the planet, stuff like that.
So it adds on to the whole thing. And I mean, they didn't have to do these. They could have just done cardboard tokens, but they did a 3D piece, and that helps a lot too. It's like, oh, my little colonies right there.
Yeah, I mean, that's what we talked about. Like with Waterdeep, the problem was what?
They were all
Everything was a
cubes.
cube.
Everything was a
It
cube.
didn't
I need
fit.
2 purples and whites and all that stuff, but now you're like, oh, I need my materials, I need my fuel.
And that kind of actually fits with what this is.
To power my.
And then you have the,
stuff.
so this really does do a good job of that.
I guess my only critique I like the bubbles, but then I don't like the bubbles, because I feel like this is all this matte finish, wooden tokens, and then you have these plastic bubbles. I don't know. Like just me, I kind of wish that this would have been more of a, I don't know what, but it's not the end of the world. But overall, the production value to me just pulls you into this theme. I just like it. So.
And it does come with these little pieces too that are cool that block off things on the board. These are for the other side, but so that the different variant of the games. That way, you don't accidentally use something based on a more player game or something. So that's really nice. I mean,
you're just able to drop that on there, and then those spaces are blocked out.
Yeah, that just adds value, I think, to the game.
Oh yeah,
is to add just little extra pieces like that to it.
Yeah. So at the end of our reviews, we like to do a 1-die rating. Do we think you should buy it, just play it, or hate it? So green means go buy this game, add it to your collection. White means you wouldn't buy it, but you definitely play it. And then red means you wouldn't buy it and you wouldn't play it because you hate it. So we're going to reach out here and I think it might be obvious what I'm going for. So, okay. And let's put our die, out there and reveal. Oh, we got 2 greens and a white. So tell us why you gave it a white.
Why did I give it a white? So I guess the reason is that I mean, that's the buy it, you know, and I just wouldn't buy it. I guess part of it's probably just me, but I wouldn't. But if it's on the board, I'll play it. That's for sure. But it just doesn't pull me enough to go buy it.
Right.
So I know that kind of sounds weird, because I mean there are some really good stuff about it. But nowadays, with how expensive games are, we only have a few that we can buy a month. But unfortunately, this one just would not make the list.
Which is totally, I think that's totally a valid argument. You know, is this good enough for me to say I'm not going to buy that one because I want to buy this one? So for me, this is a green. I love everything about this game. I love rolling the dice. I love finding ways to put them onto the board. I love the multiple ways to win the game, so you can try different tracks to win it. I like the components, the artwork. I just love this game. I totally recommend that you go buy this game.
This one isn't usually like my style of games, but I still gave it a green because it is such a good game. The way, you know, it innovates in some ways, but in other ways it does it to perfection. You know, things that have been done before.
Right.
And so it makes it out to where it's actually just a fun game, and you don't get. A lot of games like this, you get really competitive with the other players, and everybody gets mad at each other. Except for that one spot with the Raiders outpost, that doesn't really happen in this game. You don't just get mad at the end or have winner's remorse, you know, what a lot of people call it. You don't have that. You know, it just feels like you're kind of playing a little dice game, and everybody's kind of playing their own little game. So
yeah, I mean, technically, I guess this could be is this a worker placement game with dice? I mean, because you're taking your dice and putting them here, and then you get this. But even though maybe you could categorize it as that, I don't feel like, if I hear worker placement, I'm automatically like, oh, I don't know.
Yeah.
But to me, this, even though maybe you could categorize it as that, I still love it. I like it. So
It's a good game.
But anyways, that's our review of Alien Frontiers. We've got a lot more reviews online at BoardGameCloset.com. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. And as always,
Don't forget to support your local hobby shop.
don't forget.